Dial. We're in another segment of A Glass of Water and a Candle. I'm here today with my goddaughter, Tamika. We're here in Cuba, in Havana. We're actually in what's called Cayo Hueso, is the neighborhood, the pueblo. We're here taking care of religious business, but we have to take care of our patrons. So we're here continuing our conversation about spirituality and the nature of spirituality. So today we're talking about spirituality and sexuality, and it's the correlation between the two. So I have my goddaughter here today, so she's going to ask some questions, because my godchildren always ask questions, and that's what we do. So we ask questions and we answer them, and we get to the bottom of things. So, what is the question today, my dear?
So, hi, I'm Tamika. My question, kind of like a statement question, would be spirituality versus sexuality.
Okay.
The difference, the duality. How do they connect? How do they separate?
Okay.
So I had this thought, right? Which was God created all things, which was human beings, procreation, right? So when he created sex so we can have procreation, if sex was taboo or something to be demonized, so to speak, then why would he create something that gives like the nerve ending where you can have a sensation in this procreation?
Mm-hmm.
God don't make mistakes.
Okay, well, first we have to talk about the fact that the relationship between God and spirituality, right? And nothing in the universe is created without God is sexual, right? And nothing in the universe is created without copulation or interaction or interfacing with one another. The very mere idea that God is procreative, meaning that God had to have this sensation in order to create, right? And so, first we start off with the idea that you were born because of this act. You got here because of this act. Everything in the universe has happened through copulation, albeit pollination, insemination. These are the methods that God uses in order to extend or to project God's self, right? So my uncle used to say that you cannot get to heaven by yourself, meaning that the orgasm is the entrance into heaven. So you cannot do this without a partner. It is a couples only event, so to speak. So that when you in the procreation, God created the sensation to urge us to procreate, because you don't have the natural need to care for something, right? The natural idea of self preservation means that if I was to make something else and now I got to take care of it, why would I do that? So God inserted an inertia, an ecstasy within that. It is the gift that God gives you in terms of you manifesting God's will, right? So they talk about the difference between man's orgasm and woman's orgasm. So that in childbirth, as a mother, you know, it is the most painful experience a human being can endure without someone inflicting it upon you, so to speak, right? So a woman's hips unlock, her bones separate, she goes through excruciating pain to give birth to this child. So God gave woman an orgasm and a climax in order to co-opt woman to continue this act again. Because after she gives birth to one woman to another woman, listen, don't do that shit. This shit is terrible, right? But there is a gift in it so that it continues to allure you to continue the act, right? So that when the concept of orgasm is a manifestation of creation, okay? So that we talk about the Big Bang Theory, and then this explosion, this implosion and this explosion. So when one inseminates a woman in the ejaculation, one is experiencing a sort of death, right? And then in that death, out of that death comes life, right? So this is why they talk about boxers don't copulate before having a fight, because they lose their strength, because you're losing cells. You're giving cells up as a man. Women experience this monthly in the menstruation. The production, well, not even the production, because the egg is already born. The egg is already born within every woman in the cells before and after. So this egg that's been waiting to be inseminated, to be conquered, or to be intruded, right, is the assimilation of the universe, right? The collisions, the explosions. So on a physics level, we talk about the black hole, right? So you see a black hole when they talk about how the black hole eats other stars and whatnot. And once the black hole gorges itself and it becomes too dense, it begins to regurgitate all of the space, all of the star matter that it consumed. In that we have what's called a quasar, and then the quasar gives birth to stardust, which gives birth to new galaxies. Okay, so the death is in the hole, and then the hole gives birth to something new, right? The consumption of it. So when a woman is receiving a man, right, he is entering his death. Right? So then there's another old wives' tale. This is one of my god sisters' mothers, Ipaitanu, Mama Margaret, used to say that when a woman gives birth, death enters the room 9 times. Because a woman can potentially die in this process. The child can die in this process. They both can die in this process.
They say 1 foot in the grave.
1 foot in the grave. So the child is being born, and the mother, at any point, the placenta is there. This is poisonous to the mother and the baby at a certain point, which is interesting because the Yoruba refer to the placenta as Osogbo. The name for the placenta is Osogbo. Now, Osogbo means that which ties you up. So you're born with your Osogbo. All the garbage that you came from the last incarnation, you came into this incarnation with it, right? The old custom was to take the placenta, bury it beneath a tree, and every time the person experienced problems within their life, you feed the Osogbo so that the Osogbo is eating and the person is able to have a full life, right? So because we don't engage in those customs any longer, the idea is that the Yoruba are saying that you came with all of your garbage, all of the things that came to stop you from trying to advance. They came with you, but they also fed you. Because the placenta is what fed the child during this whole process of incubation. So now, when we start talking about God and sexuality, so a lot of times, there's a whole thing about God as a woman, right? It is a new phenomenon, a new cliche. But that deals with the fact that is from a perspective that God is life-giving, right? But I insert the idea that God is actually a community of more than one actual entity. It is a collective, right? And so in that collective, there are different degrees of sexuality. So There is a hormone within women that allows them to breastfeed. Because the idea of this creature sucking on your breast, right, it is uncomfortable. So there is a hormone that stimulates the woman so that she cannot become repulsed with the act, right? So there is a sexuality within the breast that male and female share, right? So that the world doesn't look at female homosexuality the same way it does male sexuality, because everyone suckles from their mother's breast. So the idea to suck on a woman's breast is nothing more than the need for nurturing, right? And so you suck on your mother's breast until a certain point where it becomes uncomfortable until you hurt and she releases you. So the idea that God has inserted a chemical within the body that that kind of promotes the woman to engage in such act.
Sure. Like a serotonin.
Absolutely, it's a serotonin, and what it does is it feeds a certain pleasure within the woman, so that there is a sexuality between a woman and a child, right? And this is something that people don't like to deal with because of the modern Western idea of sexuality being a very a controlling act, right? So in the world, you consider men as taking it from women, right? But then when we observe animals, we see that cats play a game where the cat is ready, she's in heat, but she's coy about this, right? And it is she's allowing the male cat to feel dominant, right? But really she's the dominant one because she's the one who's looking for the act. She's sent out the signal to the male cat that I'm ready, but I'm not just going to give it to you like that. You got to work for it, right? So there is a sexuality in all things in terms of the relationship between mother and child, right? And this is the relationship between God. This relationship even traverses into the relationship that we have with some of the Orisha, where Chango and Yemonja have an Oedipus relationship, the Oedipus complex, where Shango is infatuated with the idea of engaging with his mother, right? So that of all the women that he has access to, none makes him more content than his own mother, right? But that relationship is curbed through the idea of rules and limitations, right? And this goes into how a godparent and a godchild have a relationship. It is healthy for a man to have a relationship with a woman that is not his mother, that he may necessarily have the attraction to, but there is a limitation that he must not necessarily cross. Okay?
So I was once in conversation with someone, right? And the person expressed that when the husband was suiting the mate, it wasn't for the material things or how that person, how she looked or, what she can do for him. It's safe to say, like with Jamoja and Chango, the suitor that he was trying to find, he needed a safe space.
Well, it goes into the problem that we have in the West right now between men and women, especially in the black community. Black men have a tendency to create this pedestal for their woman, right? Because they have a mentality about their mother. So no black man, you can't talk about his mother having sex. He can't fathom that. Besides the fact that that's how he got here, right? So what ends up happening is when he meets a woman that he trusts, he puts her and places her in the position of mother. Now, once he puts her in the position of mother, he does not engage with her sexually like he would his partner, because now he puts her in the idea that his mother is too holy for him to conquer, right? But this leaves his woman with the void, because as a woman it is necessary for her to be conquered, because that is a part of her nature. So now he doesn't want to engage in fellatio with his wife. He don't want her to do that to him because he respects her. But as a woman, she has the urge to do that. So this is what creates the idea of men cheating on their wives because they misplaced the idea in the role